Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Kristin Nathan. She's a licensed trauma therapist and grief counselor and an evidential psychic medium and also an artist. I love her art. The pictures, the one that caught my attention the most was the flower with a bee in it. Yeah,
Thank
my eyes
you.
went to it right away, and I stayed there for a while. Beautiful. So this is my brief introduction to you, Kristen. But the question that I love asking my guests, all of them, for some reason, is how would you describe yourself in this moment? Who is Kristen?
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind is a nature lover. I love to be outside. I love to hike. I love the sunshine. So I'm in the desert
Yes.
right now, just really enjoying the weather.
Yes,
um,
yes.
and I'm a seeker. I'm just a very curious person. I love to learn things and talk to people and know about things. So I'm always trying to learn and follow my curiosities.
Yes, I love that. I love the idea that we can be more, in this state of being, this state of mind, of curiosity in the moment, without expecting anything or planning too much. But there's something that happens and that stops us from that flow of life. What do you think that is? Is that the mind? What do you call that? That always gets in the way and it goes to the past and then the future. It's never comfortable in being here. Would you call that the mind or something else?
I would call that the mind. Yeah, the conscious mind. I think the
Yeah.
ego,
Ah,
or as I refer with my clients, those little parts of us that come out
yeah.
to try to protect us.
Yes. I have been hearing a lot about the protectors, and I have had so many conversations about that. The ego, right? And I often wonder if it's possible to navigate this reality without the ego, the conscious mind. It doesn't seem to be
Great
possible.
question. Yeah, gosh, that's a tricky one. I never thought about it, but it would be
Right,
very
right.
hard because I think, yeah, the ego does keep us safe sometimes and reminds us of things we've experienced. And that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know what life would be like without it. Um,
Yeah, right. That's something that I wonder because I have been a spiritual seeker for so long now, and I felt like I had found that place where everything's okay, everything's accepted, everything's welcome. It's almost like a state of freedom where it's not really pushing away anything. It just lets everything in and go because perhaps it knows the nature of reality that's always coming and going, and it's nothing really that stays here forever.
Yeah, it requires a lot of trust,
Yeah,
faith,
right.
right?
Ah, and you see, that's an interesting topic too, which I won't get into for this podcast interview,
Yeah.
faith, trust, and all that. But
Mhm.
talk to me about what inspired you to become a therapist, Kristen. I
Yeah.
have lots of other questions here, but that's the first one.
Oh, that's a good question. I've always been fascinated with people and just learning about why people do the things they do, why they say the things they do. So I was interested in psychology, I think, from a pretty young age. I had a really great psychology teacher in high school that really,
Yeah.
opened up my mind to all kinds of different facets of people. And I just really kept following that. And I think I'm a born good listener. I think it runs in my
Mm,
family to be a good listener and to be able to mostly stay grounded and calm, even around people that are having a hard time. So I think all of
yeah.
that in combination.
Wow, that's beautiful. I
Thank
love
you.
the piece of listening, a very good listener. And you attribute that to your family. Is that something that was passed on genetically, was somehow, or was taught to you directly as
That's a good
life
question.
lessons?
I think both. If I think of my dad's side of the family, specifically like my dad, my uncle, and their mother, were all very good listeners, and still are very good listeners.
Yeah.
And my mom's side of the family too, although I think that was more learned on that side of the
Mm.
family. Is a lot of them would sort of talk over each other, and we had to learn to take turns,
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a combination in a way, but you feel like one
Mhm.
side of your family was more, let's say, natural to do.
I
See,
believe.
That sounds like it comes with us, that we are born with some of these gifts, which is, you have a beautiful one, which is mediumship. That's the topic of our conversation today, how mediumship readings can help facilitate healing in childhood and family trauma. So,
Yeah.
yeah, with that in mind, how did you uncover that gift, Kristin?
Yeah, it was so interesting. I've been a grief counselor now for almost 15 years. So I've had a lot of opportunity to sit with folks who have lost somebody really important to them. And I would notice in sessions sometimes just sort of the right thing would come out of my mouth at the right time. And it never felt like it was really my knowledge or anything from me, but I kind of wrote it off. I just sort of, I don't know, I guess I didn't really open it up. And then over this past summer, I had an experience where I really heard from specifically my grandfather. I was just writing and just all this stuff kind of came out. And then shortly after, I heard from another person in spirit that was connected to a client of mine. And she showed up with this very timely message, which I shared and we later figured out was accurate. And so that kind of caused me to think back over life. And I think I've had this for a long time. I just maybe was afraid of it or didn't know how to share it. And so once I figured that out, I joined a mediumship group and found a mentor, which really helped put things into perspective and help me learn how to sort of handle all of it.
Wow. Yeah, handle all of it in a sense of understanding, right? Of being open to it in a way too.
Yeah, it can feel a little intense sometimes. The things that would come out at first, I would be walking down the street and get impressions of things, and it just felt like it wasn't sustainable. So it was nice to have a way to kind of close it down when I need to and sort of tap into it when I need to.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, yeah, of course, I have heard about training, mediumship training and psychic training too. And that also, in a way, tells us that we all have that ability in a way, right, Kristin?
Yeah.
We all have the access to it, but
Yes.
not all of us are interested per se.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Understandably so.
Because it's not
Given
easy.
it's not easy. And I think, especially in the culture where I was raised, things like scary movies and, they sort of make
Yes.
it into something to be afraid of. And it's when you really connect, it's not scary at all, but I can see why it's scary to talk about.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it might be, that's the thing that I often reflect upon, contemplate, I read. That's actually what I love doing. Kind of uncovering more of this truth that we are not only the physical body, we are not only the mind. So I don't have that belief system. So something in me doesn't believe that. And from there, it becomes more open and curious about, other ways of existence, other realms and realities and all that,
Yes.
which it seems like we all have access to it I'm sure we do, right? But we don't tend to talk about it. That's interesting too,
Yes, I believe so too.
that
Yeah.
we don't talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's becoming slightly more accepted. And more people are more on the spiritual path and they're more open to it. But yeah, a lot of people, they're skeptical or they don't want to talk about it. And that's okay.
Yeah, I noticed that with my husband. Yeah, my sister, my family, my
Yeah.
mother. I'm sure they do have these experiences, but they don't talk about it. Even when I start a conversation, they would kind of stop me. They would change the
Yes.
subject.
Yes.
And that's interesting. Do you think that's system that they are the body? They are so, let's say, the ego, which is, I don't want to portray the ego as something that's as the enemy or something that's bad. It's just not the only
Right.
way of
Mhm.
seeing reality.
Yeah, I think, the ego is not good or bad. It protects us. And it's a way of getting information for sure.
Yes. The way you speak, it's very interesting. I have here something that really caught my attention. I put like hearts around it. You say, in my experience, the transformative potential of a reading with a psychic medium, it goes much beyond simple entertainment, and it deserves recognition as a true healing modality. The power of a psychic medium reading lies not only in the messages received, but also in the profound emotional journey it evokes, illuminating the path to self understanding and healing. So that's almost like a summary of the topic, but I would love to hear the details about it. For example, the blog post that you sent me, the subtitles are very interesting. How to prepare for a session, the psychic mediumship reading, and then how to choose one, and then the importance of preparation and protection. In this case, would be for you. But let's begin with the connection between healing and mediumship. That really caught my attention because I feel it's necessary too. So necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I would find a lot as a grief counselor is grief is really intensified and profound when somebody maybe doesn't get some kind of closure with somebody, or there were things that were left unspoken. Maybe they had questions that they couldn't ask. And also when someone maybe has a fractured relationship with someone who then passes, that adds to a lot of complications sometimes in grief. And so what I found with mediumship is when we make those connections, we can ask questions and sometimes help people get some closure and some answers around things that they didn't get to ask when the person was physically sitting in front of them.
Right. Wow. What a beautiful way of communicating at a deeper level, right, Kristen? Because that breaks that barrier of the physical reality. A lot of times it seems like the body itself is wired. I mean, I have heard that, of course, and of course, everybody has in a way wired to connect, right? So we kind of has this survival mechanism, always driving, to be around people, and even to the expense of not being true to ourselves. That has been my experience in so many relationships. And I would say to this day, now being truthful but kind at the same time, and sometimes even, really careful around the truth, because not everyone is ready anyway, and that might rupture the relationship. So I love the idea that can be, that barrier is not there. So now we can just kind of safely communicate and, ask for forgiveness and all that. That's such a wonderful opportunity.
It's really been beautiful. It's been really such an honor to be able to connect in that way. And I always say the messages that I'm sharing are not mine. I'm just sort of the channel for it, like the telephone. And so it's really it's eye-opening for me too, and also healing for me when I hear these things. They apply to everyone's experience, I think, and that's been really interesting to be able to share
How
that.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you for being open, for doing that work, because
Sure.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So a question that I had in mind initially was, I know you are a licensed therapist. So do you integrate actually psychic mediumship to therapy, or this is something that you do apart from conventional therapy?
Yes. So that's been a trickier part of my
Right.
journey. Of course, with licensure, you have to follow
Right.
certain standards and laws and ethics. And
Right.
so when this first turned on, I really struggled with that of like, how, do I even tell clients? Do I not? Um, is there a way to bring it in safely? And so I really kept it very separate, but some clients found
They
out.
did.
They found my
Yeah.
website and they
Yeah.
asked. And so I thought, well, since you're asking, then it's okay. So what we would do is do our therapy session, and then they might say to me, "Hey, do you have a few extra minutes to do a reading?" And so I would do that if they asked for one. And it was so interesting because it would go back to things that we were working on. So it was really very much
Yeah.
related. Um, so I still keep it very separate. But for the few clients that I work with that know about it, that ask, I will sort of find a way to weave it in. My hope, though, is that therapy as a whole starts moving more in a spiritual direction and really treating the person as the mind, body, and
Mm,
spirit, everything together, not just, one thing at a time. Because I see the power of, the healing that could happen using these together. I just don't know if we're there yet. I hope someday. Um, and I'm betting I'm not the only one
mm,
that sort of sees that transformative power there, but it is a little tricky to figure out how to really weave that in a way that's safe and that's ethical. So I've struggled a little bit with how to figure that out, but I'm really just leaning in and kind of, trying to trust this process and however it moves, and also always setting the intention that anything that comes through is for everybody's best
mm.
good. And that has been the case, that nothing comes through that someone's not ready for, or, that's scary or anything like that.
Yeah, how wonderful, Kristen. I love how conscious you are, how
Yeah.
aware, right, of the realms of the mind and how not to invade people's readiness, right? That's something that goes against healing in a way. I love your approach though.
Absolutely.
So only those who ask. So that's really a good way because, if you're asking, that
Yeah.
means you're open to it and you're ready for it too, to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's my thought too. And I've had some folks ask questions and things, and I love answering questions, and I really leave it up to them if they're ready. I feel like
Mm,
that's, well, and if you look into the ethics of mediumship, that's a basic practice of that too, that you don't just walk up and offer people
right.
readings. You wait for them
Yes.
to say that they're open to that. And,
Yes.
and so I really try to follow that for both.
Yeah. How wonderful. It's truly, truly beautiful what you do. Yeah. Thank you for being
Thank you.
open. And I haven't seen
Yeah.
that a lot more. Like I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I interviewed so many people, and I have seen this change, this openness, from the scientists even. So they're open.
Yes.
They're very open. I know you are a scientist of the mind too, but there are different kinds of scientists that are more close to these kinds of ideas, and atheists too.
Absolutely.
And I also found some religious people. They are not. They kind of they're
Yes.
against this readings
Yes.
or any kind
Yeah.
of understanding of a different dimension, a different reality. They're close to some people.
Yeah.
So, question that I have to ask you: with the experience you have so far as a grief counselor and doing the work of psychic mediumship, did you do you have lost the fear of death, or that still concerns the
Mm.
ego?
Yeah. This is so funny. I was just having this conversation with someone last night,
Yeah.
actually. And I believe for me personally, it has really changed my view on it, because the things that I'm sharing really, for me, feel like evidence that we do go on, not in a physical body necessarily, but in energetically, we're still here.
Hmm.
Very much so. And I always, get the information that loved ones are close to us. They stick around, they check in on us and they're watching over us and things like that. So yeah, for me it doesn't feel nearly as scary. Now, I definitely don't go out and test that, but
No. Yeah.
but I don't dwell too much on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Most of us are actually constantly aware of death. That's why we eat healthy. That's why we exercise. We take our supplements. We try to sleep, and all that. But we don't often like talking about death. So it's that
Yeah.
it's interesting to see, because in my case, I'm very open to all kinds of conversations, and death is one of my favorites actually, because it has to do with the
I like it
yeah, you
too.
do, yeah.
Yeah.
This it's to me it's I mean, it's not per se fun, because what comes to mind, I think, for the parts of the protectors and for the ego, it's how we're going to lose the body, how much pain it might go through and all that. That doesn't sound like fun,
Yes.
but it's part of the journey, isn't it?
Right. Yes, that comes up in mediumship readings a lot too. People want to
Mm,
know, did the person suffer? Were they in pain and things like that? And so, yeah, it's easy to dwell on those things for sure. That's something I've struggled with, I think, in our culture here in the United States, where death is sort of like avoided.
yeah.
People don't they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. They don't maybe honor the people that have passed as much as other cultures, and that really prolongs people's grief
Mm,
when they can't have a safe space to talk about their loved ones or remember them, or people sort of change the subject and those sorts of
mm,
things, which are really doing a disservice, I feel like, by doing that.
yes. There's something that I wanted to, yeah, highlight it here. Yeah, because you said it is important to note that while I do offer intuitive and psychic readings, I do not offer specific time frame predictions about pregnancies, soulmates, or death. So you did that's disclosed on
Yeah.
your website. And but you said,
Yes.
but I might be able to offer general information in these areas if the information is provided by your higher self or guides. So
Mhm.
some people actually get that information, Kristen, about that the time of the death or how they will die.
I would imagine it's possible. I've not had that come through, and I've not actually had anyone ask, which I'm more comfortable not being
Yes.
asked that sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
It just feels like, yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to put words on it. It's again kind of going back to knowing that it's not my information. It's just sharing what comes in. So I would imagine maybe for some people, they could get information on that if they really wanted to. But I'm also really cautious about giving information that would alter the course of somebody's
Yeah.
life. I've had a few clients go into psychic readings and get very specific information, but then it sort of changes how they approach the world.
Mm,
So, for example, if they're told, "Oh, you're going to meet so and so at so and so place," then suddenly now they're focused on, "I have to go to this place and I have to meet this person," and they might be missing something else really great.
yeah.
So I hesitate to really share too much of that kind of stuff, because I want people to be able to experience and enjoy their life and not be afraid of certain things, or be really stuck on a certain piece of information about something.
Yes, I love that. Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. So the focus is
Yeah.
healing, is clarity. Yes,
Yeah.
that makes in transformation. That's the consequence of that. So talk to me a bit more about the process of going through the session for a reading. I read on your website, but I would love to hear from you. Do you ask for objects, for picture, for anything that, yeah, what's the process like?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is that, as hard as it is to do sometimes, for people to come in with a really open mind and an open heart, because sometimes the spirits that come through are a little surprising.
Mm,
Um, and I've found that anyone who comes through in a reading, there's a reason. They have a message, they have something that they want to say, there's a reason why they're there. And so I try to make sure and point that out, that just having an open mind. And then I always ask at the end, is there somebody you really want to connect with that we didn't? And we can go and we can do that. And I do say it's great to bring objects and things like that. That can help strengthen the connection a little bit. Um, and I love seeing pictures. I
yeah.
usually ask for those after the reading, so that my conscious mind doesn't try to attach a story to a picture. But I love seeing them afterwards, because a lot of times I do sort of see an image in my mind of what somebody wants me to see or what they look like. And oftentimes it matches the picture. So that's really fun for me, to
Yeah.
see. And I think fun for people to share to their loved ones that way.
Oh my
Mhm.
God. What an amazing experience to have. um,
It's so much fun.
yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
sounds like to me, very much, when you're not
Yeah.
afraid, right? What about protection? So you speak of preparation and protection for yourself and also for the client? Both of you prepare ahead of time,
Yeah.
or is it just on your end, Kristin?
I would say I direct it more towards what I do, but if anyone ever asks, really, I don't spend a ton of time necessarily like protecting, but I do spend a lot of time sort of meditating,
Yeah.
connecting, breathing. And then after a reading to kind of, maybe move through any energy. My mentor actually suggested to just kind of get up and do your day to day activities, go for a walk, do the dishes, go outside. And I found that that helps kind of shake off, whatever energy might have come through. Um, and for me, a big one is getting a lot of sleep. Really making sure I'm resting in between
Yeah.
sessions because they can be, it takes some energy for sure. Yeah, and as far as clients, I would say just, yeah, breathing and also, after the session, going outside, maybe taking a walk, kind of just clearing the mind, processing whatever came up.
Yeah. So the messages that come from the spiritual realm through you,
Mhm.
or psychic mediums, are they always about clarity, healing, love, peace? Or I was just wondering because of the protection part of it, or sometimes that could be
Yeah.
misinterpreted. Would that be coming from the spiritual realm or the ego of the psychic or the
Mhm.
person, the
That's a
client?
good question. Yeah. I would say that at times, what I would characterize as difficult information might come through. So, for example, if a person had maybe a strained relationship with somebody, the information that comes through can be, emotional and difficult for the person to hear.
Yeah.
But there's always, again, a reason why they show up with that. And generally, what I find is once we sort of identify who the person is, we can kind of go into more of the closure. What I'm finding is that people, when they cross over, they get the opportunity to keep growing and working on things the same way we do, if they want to. And so a lot of what comes through is I messed up. I wish they have regrets sometimes. Like, I wish I would have been better at this relationship. A lot of them, I'll hear like they wish they would have taken better care of themselves, maybe gotten medical attention or eaten better.
Yeah.
So that does come through. I've never had anything scary or negative other than just referring to maybe a negativity in a relationship in the lifetime of the person. And I always, again, set the intention that everything that comes through is for everybody's highest good. So I've not had anything that I felt the need to protect from
Mm.
necessarily, other than just my own energy.
Yeah, that's very good to
Yeah.
know. So, in a way,
Mhm.
when we lose the body, whatever it is stays, it tends to be clear. It tends to look for growth, as you said, of ways to evolve in a way. That makes sense. I try to always focus on freedom. To me, that's the most important thing. In a sense, as I mentioned earlier, of being open to everything that is here, knowing that is just coming and going. It's not really nothing. It's really forever, or let's say 100% real. So the only thing that would be real then, it would be this awareness of what's happening. So that seems to be very much
Mhm.
stable and always there, always aware of something. And the something is always coming and
Yeah,
going, like a drunken dream.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that idea of non-attachment to outcome and things like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another question that I want to ask is about nature. I know how connected to nature you are.
Mhm.
And of course, I see
Yeah.
us humans as nature itself. I don't see a separation. But there's something about being around trees and animals and mountains and the grass that water, love water. that just kind of
Yeah.
changed the way we interact with reality in a way. So, how do you explain that? Is that because the nature, I mean, as in vegetation animals, they don't have the ego? It's not something that's present to guide
Mm.
them, or something else?
Oh, I love that question. I never thought about it that way, but I
Mm.
could see that yeah, they don't have the filter, the protection of the ego that we have. Yeah, there's something about nature that is just so real and so beautiful. I look at it sort of like when we have our animals, our pets,
Oh,
where the
yeah,
relationship is just so pure because there's it's not as difficult as we have with humans. And I suppose with nature, it's the same way.
yes.
Yeah, and it's also beautiful. It's just there for us to enjoy. Nature doesn't really ask for anything in return. It's just that we sit and enjoy it and take care of it.
Yeah, I know I didn't mention that before. So you work with humans when it comes to readings, but you also do for animals too. I read for pets.
Cool.
Yeah, and I have seen a picture on your
Mhm.
website. You're walking with some people, and I saw the dog. So, do they
Mm.
communicate in the same way the humans do? They use the same language,
Yeah.
even?
Yes, I was so surprised the first time someone's dog came through, and I didn't know it was what it was. I was just sharing what I was getting, like I would do in any
Yeah.
reading. And the woman stopped me and said, "That's my dog." And so, what I've noticed now after having done more of those is for me personally, animals show up almost in a sense, they feel lighter than humans. They don't come as weighed down with things.
Yeah.
They almost show up as sort of lighthearted, bouncy, fun. And that's kind of my cue that I might be dealing with an
Yeah.
animal. And usually then they'll show me an image of what they are, of what sort of animal, maybe what they looked like. But aside from that, they do come across the same way. Pictures, words, um, personality comes through a lot, mannerisms,
Wow.
memories. They'll show me memories of things that they did together with their owners.
I have a dog, so
Mhm.
that's amazing. And you're right. There's
Yes.
something about that. It's so pure, right? That it's almost this
Yes.
transmission of energy. There's nothing between. It's so direct. We feel like their hearts.
Yes.
Yeah, what's not to love
Yes.
about that? And we wish that everybody was like a dog, dogs or animals. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
remember I
Yes.
interviewed somebody long ago. I forgot her name, Maureen Scalin. She wrote a book. The title was My Dog is More Enlightened Than I Am. That was like a funny title
I love that.
because in the book was all about that, how her dog was so
Mhm.
in tune with himself and the present moment, and she felt so wonderful around him. And she was not able to be like that. And she was trying to be spiritual, but it was
Yeah.
so much harder.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So the question was about pets. Do they have this filter, a protection filter too? Because they seem to have fear. Their minds kind of mired in
Yes.
fear a lot of times, being protecting somebody or themselves. So I'm wondering if that gets in the way of them, the pure energy that they carry.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think animals are really good at picking up on whatever energy we have
Mm,
in the moment.
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever noticed, like if you're maybe anxious or excited, and a dog will get anxious and excited with us.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Yeah. And fear, yeah, some of that's I'm sure they're born with, and also they learn it probably too.
Yes. But the interesting thing that seems like
Mhm.
you have found is that they don't carry that when they lose the body. So they are still lighter. You feel the light energy about them. So they are not really
Yeah.
heavy. They're not carrying the memories, the imprints of their dog life.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's how pets show up for all
Mm,
mediums. That has been my particular cue is that they do feel a lot lighter, yeah, more joyful, and maybe that is indicative of how they are more present in life, that they
mm.
are capable of experiencing more joy. They don't they don't get caught up, in worrying the way we do, maybe.
So in a way, they're not holding on to energies. They are kind of that, like they said, they shake that
Right.
off. They just forget about it faster.
I think so too. Yeah.
So there's anything else before we say goodbye, there's anything else that you left with unsaid, anything else that you'd like to add about the conversation we had today, Kristin?
Well, I'm just so appreciative of you taking the time to talk
Thank
with me,
you.
and you had such great questions, such thoughtful questions, and this is a fun topic for me to talk
Mm,
about. It's been really a blessing and a gift that, again, I had no idea I had, but it's been such a journey to really share these things with people. I enjoy it. The readings are fun. They're, sometimes difficult, but just getting to share those messages feels like such an honor. So I'm so excited to share it with people.
yeah, thank you so much again for being you, for being open, and it's so clear the way you express yourself. That's coming from that place that you're so much in touch with a reality that is
Thank
beyond the one that most of us are used to engage with. It's very clear to me. So
you.
thank you so much again for the
Thank you.
inspiration and the transmission of
Yes.
that.
Yes. You're
So before
welcome.
we say
Yes.
goodbye,
Thank
I want to
you.
mention the website is KristinNathan.com. So the website, your website will be on the podcast notes, will be right in the notes. And also the services that you
Thank you.
offer through your website. So readings and your photography, you also have prints available. I saw that there too. So
I do.
I'll have
Yeah.
that on the podcast notes as well. Thank you so
Oh,
much
thank you.
again. And if I have to ask you one last question, I'll ask you this one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What is your idea of what
Absolutely.
is freedom to you? What is your idea of freedom, Kristin?
Oh, I like that question too. I believe freedom is getting to be truly ourselves, who we really are, who our soul's
Mm,
expression
yeah,
is, and getting to do that as much as we can. Having the freedom to figure out who we are, and then feeling free to share that with other people, and maybe not to worry about the judgment of, how that comes across. Um, yeah,
mm,
that's freedom for me, and there's a lot of joy in that, getting to be yourself and experience the world that way.
yes, so true. Gosh, what's not to love again about that answer? Thank you so much, Kristin, for your presence in our reality. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. I would love to meet you again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Valeria. It's so good talking to you.
Yeah, we'll be in touch again. Take good care of yourself, Kristin. Okay, bye for
Thank
now.
you, you too, and thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me on your show. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for your presence.